Eric, as of midnight, hundreds of Port Miami workers right here behind me are not showing up to their jobs. They're actually staying here for as long as it takes. They're coming and going in shifts. Right now, as you can see behind me, this group of people is demanding two things for their new contract: better wages and a total ban on automation in an effort to stay safe on the job. These are some of the workers who handle all of the goods that come to the port on a daily basis, including Saturdays and Sundays. These union members say they want a 77% wage increase over 6 years and a total ban on the automation of cranes, gates, container moving trucks, and other type of automation equipment. On the other hand, the United States Maritime Alliance represents the ports. The group offered dock workers nearly a 50% pay increase, pledging to keep limits on automation. We know that a lot.
I don't know, Pastor, but maybe it's just me, but I feel like that's a little bit unreasonable. 77% pay increase. In addition to that, I mean, we're moving forward, and the fact that the unions just don't want any automation, they don't want any technology. And of course, there's always that fear that technology is going to take their place, but they're saying that within the contract that they're willing to minimize the amount of automation that they're going to use. And they're saying, if you listen to them, they're saying they are not going to budge. And so I just want the audience to keep that in mind as we're moving forward.
So that
and
means
you ask why.
If I'm making $1, I need $1.75. If I'm making $100, $175. If I make $1,000, $1,750. Just keep on going. If I make 10,000, and if they do not budge, if they don't yield, and this stalemate continues, we can see the what is going to be ominous. There's going to be a crisis, and it's going to continue and get worse. It's going to get in a form of burgeoning. It's going to be very disruptive, and people are going to suffer. And let me tell you something: the powers that be, which we'll cover, they want it so because they have an end goal.
Absolutely. And, Pastor, they're holding the economy hostage, right? And so, like you rightly said, you would think that those that are in charge would see what we see and want to mitigate the situation, but not so. We're actually going to take a look at that right now. We're going to see what the response has been from the current administration. So we're going to take a look at this article from Reuters. And I just want to read a few lines from here. It says, Biden won't block potential strike at East Coast ports. Now, of course, you can just look at this as an isolated incident, but I want you to look at the inconsistencies in this administration. Listen here. It says, U.S. President Joe Biden does not intend to invoke a federal law to prevent port strikes. It says, we've never invoked the Taft-Hartley to break a strike, and we are not considering it now. And for those of you that aren't aware of it, the Taft-Hartley Act is the federal law that was put into place in 1947, and it kind of puts limits on the union. But let's just take a look at this other article here, and I'm going to show you the inconsistencies. It says, and this is coming from Reuters as well, it says, what we know about the U.S. East Coast port dispute. And it says the White House said that it is not trying to help broker a deal, listen, as it did last year during the West Coast talks. That's interesting, right? Yes. So for those of you that recall, last year, we actually were on the border of going into another strike on the West Coast. However, the administration decided that they wanted to intervene. So the question is, why are they not intervening now? And of course, I personally believe that it's deliberate, that they want this crisis to come. And we're going into an election year. Again, there's just so many things that are happening. But we're going to take a look at another clip. And
hold it right there. So if one of their purposes and reasons for not trying to end and to intervene, to stop and halt this strike because of the election that's coming up, and they'll do anything to win an election, we are now at October 1st. That means we have approximately 35 to 36 days to go, November 5th. So are you telling me that they are willing for the whole nation to suffer supply chain crisis for the next 35 days? in order to win an election? If that's the case, they don't care about us.